Part 165. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1641. By the time the Yin family and the Lu family knew that their two children had gone to Yangzhou, the two carriages had already left the city for more than an hour, and they were halfway there. Lu Shangshu was so angry that he almost vomited blood, and shouted, "Why did he go to Yangzhou on the day of the family reunion?" The servant who came back to report shrank his neck and whispered back, "I said I'm going to greet my aunt." Lu Shangshu had a daughter who married in Yangzhou. It was indeed Lu Huan's aunt, but he had never seen such a good relationship with his aunt in previous years. Lu Shangshu shook his lips, suppressed his anger, and turned his head to look at his old wife aggressively. "Look at how much you spoil your children." Mrs. Lu ignored him, and directly ordered her servants, "It's time to pack up and chase after him. There are many people in the Mid-Autumn Festival, so bring a few more guards, and be careful that he will be photographed by traffickers." He added, "Take the clothes he often wears, the accessories he often wears, the pancreas he usually uses, the wash basin, and so on. His aunt doesn't know about it yet, so hurry up and inform him, and let him live in him. Aunt's house, don't live outside, it's not clean." The servants responded with a chorus of voices, then turned and ran away, daring not to face Lu Shangshu's violent wind and rain. The Yin mansion, which is not very far from Liu's house, is quieter and more lively. Because Lord Yin didn't get angry, he just had someone pack up Yin Or's things and bring them to him, as well as the servants he used at home. Mrs. Yin asked someone to pack some important medicinal materials and said, "Why did you suddenly go to Yangzhou? He hasn't traveled far. The last time he went to the suburbs of Beijing to live for half a month, I felt in my heart ups and downs of unease." Master Yin said, "It's normal for children to want to go out when they are older. Yangzhou is not very far from the capital. They leave at noon and arrive at you at the latest. There will be nothing wrong." Mrs. Yin glanced at him and couldn't help sighing. She already knew that her son was choosing a son-in-law for Lu Niang recently, and the status of the selection was very low. Obviously, she had made up her mind to let Lu Niang choose a son-in-law. In this way, Yin may not have to rush to get married, or even get married. According to the plan, Yin should get married this year and find a way to conceive a child. Mrs. Yin was silent and did not speak. Both mother and son are not talkative people, but today several daughters have come home. Sister Yin handed the gift box she brought back to her servant, then walked quickly with her skirt in hand, and said at the door, "Father, I heard that my younger brother went to Yangzhou. Lord Yin has a headache. It's good, the Yin family is more lively than the Lu family at the moment. This is not the first time Lu Huan has come to Yangzhou city. He comes several times a year. Sometimes he comes to play with his brothers and friends, sometimes he comes to visit relatives. Anyway, it's not far, and he leaves in the morning and arrives at noon. Kenyan or the first time. Speaking of which, their family has another courtyard in Yangzhou. At the gate of the city, Yin he lifted the curtain, looked up at the city tower slightly, and smiled, "Is this Yangzhou city?" "Yeah," Lu Huan urged, not knowing what to see here, "Come into the city, I don't know where they are now. This Yangzhou city is not small, but how can I find it?" Yin Or thought for a while and said, "Let's go and find out how many inns there are in the city. There are a lot of them, so it shouldn't be difficult to find out." Lu Huan touched his stomach and said, "I only bought 2 meat patties when I left the city. I'm hungry now." Yin Or thought about it and said, "Then find a restaurant to stop for dinner. By the way, where do we stay at night?" The two looked at each other. It was the first time they ran out by themselves. In the past, these were arranged by the servants. They just eat when they should be hungry and go out when they need to play. Chang Xiao, who was sitting on the carriage to drive the car, said, "Master, we have to find an inn to stay in, right?" You must be tired after riding in the car for almost 3 hours. You have to go out to see the lanterns at night, so why don't you sleep first? As for young Master Bai and the others, let the young ones find them. Yin Or discussed it with Lu Huan and thought this was a good idea, so they asked them to find an inn to rest first. Lu Huan's servant Qingyu was more familiar with Yangzhou. He drove their carriage to follow, and when he saw the carriage in front, he went down the street, and he was about to walk from the city gate here to the city over there. When the door was gone, he couldn't help but chase the carriage up and stop it. Knowing that they were looking for an inn, they couldn't help but say, "The best inn in Yangzhou is the Fule Inn. I've already walked by it just now, young masters, come with me." So they turned their horses around. The Fule Inn is not on the main street, but on the third street down from the main street, but it is also very lively here. Qingyu pointed to the inn in front and said, "It's right there, their inn is very large, with 2 buildings in the front and back, both on 3 floors, the front is the place to eat, the back is the guest room, and there are 5 guest houses in the back, not only for short-term rentals, but also for long-term rentals." He said, "Some nobles from the capital don't want to live in other courtyards, or there are no other courtyards in Yangzhou city, and they don't want to go to the trouble of renting a house, so they set up a courtyard here and live for a month or 2. Yes. The best inn in Yangzhou is Fule Inn." Lu Huan was curious, "How do you know so much?" Qingyu smiled and said, "Young master, you forgot that the younger brother is serving by the eldest young master. The eldest young master likes to rent a yard in the Fule Inn." Lu Huan, his brother still has this hobby? Why doesn't he know? The carriage stopped at the Fule Inn, and immediately some guys came out to park their carriages. These guys were all first-rate in identifying people, not to mention the brand. Chang Shao took the sign and waited for the 2 young masters to enter the inn together with Qingyu, and first asked for 2 upper rooms to live in. They decided to come to Yangzhou on a temporary basis. There was only 1 set of clothes in the car, and nothing else. Chang Shao felt that this was not possible, so he said, "Master, the little one will wait for you to go up and rest first, and then go to buy you something. Although there are also things for washing in the inn, their young master must not be able to use those." Yin Or nodded, followed behind them to the guest room, and was about to go to the first floor, when a group of people happened to be in front of them, as if they were going to go out. When the 2 sides met, they looked up, and they were all startled. Not long after taking a nap, the 3-man Bao, who had recovered their energy and were about to go out to play, looked at Yin Or Lu Huan opposite them in shock. Yin Or did not expect that their luck would be so good, and they came across it. Before he could speak, Lu Huan jumped up and pointed at them, "Okay, so you are here. Come on, you missed your appointment, what should I do?" The work to lead them on the side was a little nervous, and I thought it was an enemy meeting, and when I heard this, I was slightly relieved. Fate is a bridge, it can always be connected. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1642. The 3-man Bao were so amazed that they gathered around them. "Why did you all come to Yangzhou?" He added, "We went out in a hurry and forgot to tell you, we were still anxious before." Yin Or and Lu Huanke didn't believe it. They couldn't come to inform them in person about a single sentence. Apparently they didn't take them to heart. The 2 of them were angry for a while, and the 3 of them all saluted and apologized, and it took a while to coax the 2 of them, so the 2 of them didn't go to the room they had just decided, but went directly to the yard they rented. Just wash and rest in Bai Shan and Bai Erlang's house. The things Bai Shan and Bai Erlang used were all brought from home, which was naturally very good. Yin Or and Lu Huan did not dislike it either. They washed and changed clothes and went to say hello to Mrs. Lu and others, and told them they were coming. Then go back to the house. Bai Shan and the others originally wanted to go shopping, but they won't go out now, So they asked the man to bring them meals and sat together in Bai Shan's house, eating and talking. Yin or ate some, he had a small appetite, and soon he was full, and then he leaned on the couch and fell asleep. Man Bao wrote a prescription for drying and handed it to Chang Shao, and asked him to grab the medicine for his young master to drink. Yin or was just a little tired and didn't have any other problems, but he forgot to bring his medicine, and it was time for him to take it. It was convenient for Chang Shao to go out after taking the medicine, but he didn't actually need to go. Longevity turned around and stood up again. Yin he moved, waved Chang Shao and Qingyu to go down to eat, then looked at the four with excellent appetite, yawned and asked, "How can you eat so much?" Man Bao looked at his empty bowl, ate the last mouthful of steamed buns, and said, "We have to eat a little less, and we have to go shopping at night." Lu Huan didn't take a nap either, and felt a little sleepy at this time, so he yawned and asked, "It won't be dark until after Su? You don't have any lights when you go out?" Bai Shan responded and said, "So go to sleep, we will go out together when you wake up." After hearing what he said, the two immediately went to rest in peace, and they didn't even bother to eat or sleep well. But who cares, the two didn't go to their upper room, they directly occupied the bed of Bai Shan and Bai Erlang. Lu Huan kicked off his shoes and fell asleep. Yin may be better. Under the service of longevity, he has loosened his clothes and slept in his underwear, which is quite comfortable. They slept until the sunset, and when they woke up, the room was already a little dark, but there was still light outside, but it was estimated that it would be completely dark within a quarter of an hour. The two quickly got up, washed and dressed. Bai Shan and the others were sitting in the yard chatting. There were pen and ink on the table, a lot of words and paintings were written on it, all about the planning of the job field. Hearing the movement of them waking up, Bai Shan finished calculating the data in his hand, wrote it down, and then packed it up. Yin Or came out while putting on his coat, and caught a glimpse of their manuscript. It happened to be a painting on the top. It was square, and he couldn't see what it was, so he asked suspiciously, "What is this?" Bai Shan smiled and said, "It's nothing, Man Bao's picture of the field." Yin he just remembered and asked, "So this time you are here to see Man Bao's job field?" The three nodded together. Yin he just took out the picture and looked at it, and found that the river was also marked on it, and a circle was drawn on one side of the river, which seemed to be a pond or something. He wondered, can the field be dug a pond? "No," Man Bao said, "this does not belong to the scope of my work field, but is on the side. It is a wasteland, mostly sandy soil. It is not difficult for me to rent or buy it. What if your job field is not here in the future?" Man Bao smiled and said, "Then sell the pond to others, or rent it to others." Yin he smiled, "What if no one buys or rents it? What does it matter? Bai Shan's house has Zhuangzi nearby, and the same is true for the villager who will be handed over to his family. It is also based on this consideration that they dare to plan to spend so much money to dig ponds." Yin Or couldn't help but flip through their draft, which not only included the plan to raise how many chickens and ducks, but also how many fruit trees to plant. He asked in a daze, "How do you all calculate this?" "It's done with arithmetic," Bai Erlang could answer him. "It's better in the north, where the terrain is flat, and the land is basically every 10,000 acres of land. Almost all of the 100 acres are connected together, even if there is a gap in the middle, it is only a few acres of land separated from each other, not connected here, there are connected there, so it is easy to calculate. These are all mature fields. It's a pity to use them to plant fruit trees, so fruit trees and mulberry trees are planted on ridges. We have calculated the distance. Except for the ridges that must be allocated to the tenant farmers, we can use them for planting fruit trees." Yin Or wondered, why must the ridge be distributed to the tenant farmers? Bai Erlang choked for a moment and then asked back, "Give it to them regardless of the land, what kind of land do they use to grow mulberry and hemp?" They have to pay the court for cotton wool. Yin or where did he know this and asked, do they have no land to grow mulberry and hemp? Bai Shandao, most of that land is the imperial court's field. If you want to grow mulberry and hemp, you can only plant it on wasteland, but it is overgrown with weeds, and there are all kinds of shrubs and waste rocks, which requires a lot of money. Large human and material resources, it is better to plant in the ridge. Man Bao nodded. Yin he was silent for a while and then asked, will there be any harvest when you plant fruit trees in the ridges? I heard people say that children in the countryside steal fruit. Man Bao smiled and said, I didn't point to these fruits to make money. I'll pick them when the time comes. If the fruits are well planted, we'll give them the fruits along with chickens and ducks during the festivals. We save money and they eat happily. No. Lu Huan, who came out of his clothes, heard a smile and said, I have only heard that Zhuangzi gave gifts to the host, but never heard that the host gave gifts to the tenant farmers. Are you the opposite? Man Bao scratched his head and asked, is it the other way around? But when we were at home, we delivered things to the long-term workers at home every year, and Grandma Lu and the others never said anything. Bai Shan, isn't it wrong? It's written in the book. During the Chinese New Year and festivals, you should give thoughtful gifts to your subordinates, so that your subordinates can have a more sense of belonging. The whole book is written about how to subdue your subordinates. Yin or curious, what book is this? Bai Shan was about to say the title of the book, when he thought of something, he smiled and said, I read a miscellaneous book when I was very young, and now I don't know where I got it. Lu Huan still didn't believe it. Every year, the steward of my Zhuangzi sends things to my house, but I have never seen one from my family giving gifts to the tenant farmers. If you don't believe me, ask King Yu. See you at 9. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1643. What can King Yu say? He could only laugh stiffly. Serving the master is the honor of the slaves. How dare you accept the gift of the master? Lu Huan looked at them proudly. The three of Man Bao hesitated. Is that so? This is not the same as what they knew when they were young. Bai Shan was the first to return to his senses, waved his hand and said, forget it, no matter what, don't change things that have already been decided. He said to Man Bao and Bai Erlang, what's more, we are used to this, and if we change it rashly, it is not easy to manage, so let's just follow the trend. Anyway, I think that book is still very useful. At least I feel the long-term workers of our little Zhuangzi are much more capable than the long-term workers of Uncle Tang's family. This Bai Erlang had the most say, and nodded again and again, yes, our long-term worker is more capable than my father's long-term worker. So the three of them looked at Yin Or and Lu Huan confidently again, especially Lu Huan, and solemnly said, you should also learn. Yin Ji remained silent, and returned the manuscript to them. Then you have to be an official for a little longer. It takes 3 years for mulberry trees to pick mulberry leaves and raise silkworms. If you have been an official for 2 years, how could these tenant farmers be wrong? Not to die. When Man Bao thought it was true, he immediately said, I will work diligently when I go back. Bai Shan put away the things and handed them over to Daji, then got up and stretched, moved his limbs and said, let's go out for a walk. Lu Huan looked left and right and asked, where's Mrs. Lu and the others? Man Bao said, they went out early. We were originally going to be together. You haven't woken up yet, so we'll be waiting for you here. Bai Erlang was excited, let's go out to see the night view and lanterns of Yangzhou. As a result, they just opened the courtyard door, and happened to encounter a guy who came with a mighty group of people. When they saw it, Lu Huan and Yin Or were immediately surrounded. A middle-aged steward came from Lu Huan's house. He fell to the ground and hugged Lu Huan's leg and cried, "Young master, you scared the old slave to death. How could you come to Yangzhou city without saying a word?" Lu Huan said, "Who said I didn't say anything? Didn't I send someone back to tell my family that I came to Yangzhou city to see my aunt?" The middle-aged steward cried for a while, raised his face without tears and continued to cry, "But young master, this is not the aunt's mansion. You don't know how often the servants go to the aunt's mansion, but they can't find you." Panic. Thanks to the generals of the Yin family, he found out that the two young masters were in the Follett Inn, and the minions rushed over, otherwise the young masters would not be found this night, and the minions would not have to live. But Yin Or, who was less than 3 steps away from them, was another scene. The family general of the Yin family rushed to Yin Or, saluted and said, "My lord, let the little one bring something personal to the young master, and let the little one protect the young master." Yin He nodded, pointed to Chang Shao and said, "I have reserved a room for the upper room, and I just can't live. You can ask Chang Shao to take you there, and I will put my personal things in Bai Gong's room." Of course it was impossible for Chang Shao to go, and it was also impossible for the general to leave. In the end, the things of the generals and servants were given to the servants to take to the upper room, while the things of Yin or Chang Shao were picked up and sent to Bai Shan's house. During this period, the family will not allow them to leave, they must go together. Lu Huan was suffering from a headache, and reluctantly appeased the middle-aged steward who was crying constantly, and finally promised to take all the 5 servants he brought with him, and never go out with Manbao and the others after they never run around. The Bai family had originally reserved 5 guards for Bai Shan and the others, plus 1 daji, and now they are added to the street, and everyone is 3 feet away from the 5 of them in an instant, for fear of collision. I don't know where the noble son and the noble lady came from. Manbao 3 people. However, this is not the time to discuss this, because it is getting dark because of the delay. And the watchman who played the watch knocked on the watch just in time, and then shouted loudly, "One watch light up." Not only the watchman in this street, but also the watchmen in other streets also started to call and shout, so some people in the street started to light the lanterns in front of the door. The lanterns were lit up in front of us, and suddenly they were lit up like a fire dragon, and the lanterns on both sides of the wide road were also lit up one by one. The sky was getting darker and darker, and the lit lanterns became brighter and brighter in the dark night. Not to mention the 3 hillbillies who had not seen much of the world, even Lu Huan, who traveled between Yangzhou and Yangzhou in the capital all the year round, was stunned. With a wow, he whispered in amazement, "It's the first time I've seen someone turn on a lantern when I'm so old. When I used to go to the street, the lanterns were already lit, and it was the busiest time. He is still like this, let alone the 3 Bai Shan, who are amazed, how beautiful." Bai Shan sighed, "This lantern is even more beautiful than a flower, the lantern shed is more dazzling than a flower shed, and a street lantern is better than 1,000 trees." Manbao and Bai Erlang could only nod their heads fiercely. The 4 of them were amazed here, and slowly they felt that something was wrong. Why did it seem that there was one person's voice missing? So when he looked back, he saw that Yin Or had been staring straight ahead, but he couldn't come back to his senses when he looked at the lanterns on the whole street in front of him. Manbao stretched out his hand and made a move in front of him, Yin Or only then recovered a little, and he looked down at Manbao suspiciously. Manbao smiled and said, "Is this your first time seeing lanterns?" Yin He nodded, and once again couldn't help but look up at the bright street ahead, and said softly, "I've only seen lanterns in the mansion before. But how many lanterns are there in the house? How can that be compared with the thousands of lights on the street? What's more, the Yin mansion is deserted, and everyone knows that he doesn't like crowds, so even on festivals like the Mid-Autumn Festival and Lantern Festival, they don't come to him easily. How can the deserted appearance be compared with the excitement on the street?" Only then did the three of Baishan remembered that the three of them had not seen many lantern festivals in big cities because they had lived in Qilai village since childhood, but they had also seen lantern festivals like Lujian County and Yazhu City. Yin Or is the real country bumpkin. Even though he has lived in the capital for more than 10 years, he has never watched the lantern festival. The three looked at him sympathetically and said, let's go to the street. Bai Erlang waved his hand, come on. The voice was so loud that many people turned their heads to look at him. He didn't even notice it, and he had already rushed forward. The guards of the Bai family were not surprised, and almost when he shouted to rush, one of them squeezed him. Beside him, he ran after him as soon as he rushed. Bai Shan and Man Bao rushed along without thinking. Daji led someone to catch up with them, and left 2 guards for Lu Huan and Yin Or thoughtfully. Yin he was visiting the Lantern Festival for the first time and thought that was the way to go, so he lifted up his robe and quickly followed them. There are a lot of people at the moment, and if you say rushing, you just run for a short distance, and you can't rush anywhere. Lu Huan, who was left behind, was at a loss, grabbed the guard of the Bai family who had left him and asked, what are you rushing for? The guard said, rush to find something to eat and play. You can guess lantern riddles. Young Master Lu, what do you want to play? Lu Huan's face was mysterious. Am I alone? Where are they? See you tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1644. Bai Shan had already pulled Man Bao into the crowd. Daji and another guard stood behind them to protect them, and the two quickly caught up with Bai Erlang in front. Bai Erlang was standing in front of a roast leg of lamb. He looked back and waved when he saw the two of them. Come on, this leg of lamb looks delicious. Man Bao smelled the smell of burnt incense and couldn't help swallowing. Bai Shan then said to the stall owner, 10 knives. The stall owner responded with a smile, then rolled over the leg of lamb, took a lotus leaf in the palm of his hand, and pulled out a sharp short knife. Zhang large and thin leg of lamb. The thin slices of meat are placed on the lotus leaf, which is 1 cut, and then he cuts the second cut. When Yin Or brought a group of servants to catch up, he had already reached the 5th film quickly. It was the first time that Yin he grew up to see roast lamb sold like this, and he couldn't help but be surprised. Bai Shan took out the money. Bai Erlang had already reached out and took the lotus leaf, while Man Bao reached out and took a wooden stick and rolled a piece of meat. After she took a bite, her eyes lit up, and she gave a thumbs up to a few people, saying, not as good as us. Poor food in Yazhu City. Lu Huan finally caught up. He was surprised that there were so many people that they didn't get lost. It is impossible to get lost. A road is divided into 2 sides, and people who come and go can only go on their own side. There are many people. Even if they run, they can only run for a short distance, so the distance between them will not be too far. If there were only a few of them, they might have to worry about blocking the line of sight, but with the tall guards like Daji, they basically couldn't lose it. A few people invited Lu Huan to eat together, and then Man Bao picked it up and directly gave Yin Or a small piece from a thin slice, saying, you can just taste it. Yin Or didn't think anything was wrong. He couldn't eat a lot of things. He put the small piece of meat in his mouth, and he was already overjoyed. After Bai Shan ate 1 piece, he gave the rest to Daji, and then everyone stood on tiptoe and looked forward for a while, then went forward together. The lanterns hanging on the door of the shop are for people to see, but some shops have set up a light shed, and there will be a mystery on the lamp. Basically, lantern riddles are all related to their own business. In addition to lights, some shops will also give people some things they manage, so that they can boost their popularity. Man Bao also passed by the door of Yongzhou Jishatang and looked at the lantern riddles they made. She could basically guess them, but she didn't guess because their lamps were not very good looking. Man Bao turned and left with Bai Shan, and said, I don't know who made these lanterns, but they are really ugly. I heard as if the lanterns in the Jishitang in our capital were custom made by craftsmen, and one of them was a lotus lantern. It's very beautiful. I don't know if it will be guessed. If I can't guess, I will go back and have a look. Jishitang probably knew that their lanterns were not as good as the ones next door, so in addition to guessing lantern riddles to send lanterns, they also sent packages of medicinal herbs. A small packet of medicinal materials, all of which are prepared with several medicinal materials, some for nourishing blood and nourishing qi, some for relieving asthma and promoting body fluid. Anyway, there are several kinds. As long as you guess right, you can choose a medicine bag to take away while taking the lantern. It is also because of this activity that Man Bao did not continue to complain. Several people walked down happily, walking all the way, playing all the way, and eating all the way. Because it was the Mid-Autumn Festival, many craftsmen came out to perform, and some people circled a piece of land on the spacious street to do juggling, and then walked down while playing. A few people crowded to the front with the things they bought, and saw a child about their age lightly stepped on the back of the person and flew up, passing through the bamboo circle in mid-air and falling again. The crowd couldn't help bursting. Applaud. Man Bao also clapped and applauded, surprised. Bai Shan said, "Is this the lightning technique?" Lu Huan said, "My guards can fly too." Bai Erlang looked down at his figure and said regretfully, "I also learned from Daji when I was a child, but Daji said that I was too fat to learn, but now I am thin, and he said that I am too old to learn." Bai Shan said nonchalantly, "Don't think about it. You can't even tie the horse and step, and I can't even learn the art of lightning." Bai Shan has always been practicing martial arts with Daji, but they fight a little bit harder. When he was practicing swordsmanship with the martial arts master of Chongguan Pavilion, he learned faster. He really stepped on the wall and flew to the roof like Daji. He is still like this, not to mention Bai Erlang, who is tired, who has been fishing for 3 days and drying the net for 2 days. It took a lot of effort to fly, so Bai Shan took out a handful of copper coins and put them on the plate of the entertainer who came to collect the money. The copper basins specially made by the buskers, and the rewarding things will make a clear sound when they fall on the copper basins. Therefore, when Bai Shan's copper coins fell into the copper basin and made a clanging sound, the onlookers couldn't help but look over. Zhou Lixiu and others on the other side of the crowd saw them at a glance, and immediately waved their hands, shouting across the crowd, "Little ant!" Man Bao stood on tiptoe to look, and saw their hands, but he didn't see their heads very much, so he waved back, "You guys are here, what about my dad and the others?" Old Zhu didn't want to go with them to squeeze in the crowd. Mrs. Lu reserved a seat in a restaurant on the most lively main street early in the morning. The one by the window and the street, sitting in the box, you can see the restaurant below. Lively. But the children were very interested in these, so Zhou Lixiu and the others went downstairs early to play. When the two sides met, everyone gathered in one place, and then Zhou Lixiu pointed to the restaurant not far away and said, "Grandpa and the others are over there." It happened that this wave of performances ended, and everyone was about to leave. Yin, or a little unsteady on his feet, Man Bao said, let's go up and sit down, take a sip of tea and come down to play. I ate a lot just now, and everyone was really thirsty. So everyone walked along the crowd. On the 3rd floor of the restaurant not far away, Han Wuniang stabbed her husband uncertainly and asked, "Is that Dr. Zhou Xiao?" Li Sanlang, who was hugging the child happily, glanced outside, only to see the heads of the people, but he didn't see anything, and said, "You read it wrong, Dr. Zhou should be in the capital to see the lanterns right now." Han Wuniang thought for a while and felt that she was right, so she turned her head and said to the girl, "You bring 2 people down to find it, I always think I am right." The maid responded and went out to pick 2 old women down. Li Sanlang was quite helpless. What happened to Dr. Zhou Xiao? If Dr. Zhou Xiao came to Yangzhou, I would treat her well. This Yangzhou is also our family's territory. See you at 4 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1645. The maid went down to the first floor with the two wives, and she saw Zhou Man and her little friends coming over laughing and joking. She didn't expect to have such a fate, so she was stunned for a moment, and then the shop assistant came up to meet her faster than her. A few guest officers want to eat, or... Zhou Lixiu said, the family has a box on the second floor, we will go up. The man's eyes swept over the large group of servants behind them, smiled and let them go upstairs, but he didn't walk away immediately. He had to see which room they were in, and then bring tea. Just thinking about it, Han Wuniang's maid had already greeted her and stopped Zhou Man to salute, Dr. Zhou Xiao. Man Bao took a closer look and was surprised, hey, aren't you that Xiangui? Xiangui responded with a smile, and said, my third master and my wife are also here to admire the lights. When I was upstairs, my wife said that I saw the little doctor, and the third master said no. Xiangui invited Man Bao to sit on the third floor together. Man Bao said, no need, let your father and wife play by themselves, my parents are on the second floor. The master asked her to invite people, no matter what, it would be better to invite people, so Xiangui thought about it and smiled, Dr. Zhou, my young master is also here, you haven't seen him since 100 days. I don't know that he can sit, crawl, and even grab people to stand up now. When Man Bao heard this, he also wanted to see the first child to be cut out, so he said to her, you go up first, I've seen the elders and I will go up to the third floor to see your wife. Xiangui replied with a smile, sent Man Bao and the others to the second floor first, and wrote down their box numbers before going to the third floor. Old Zhutu was standing by the window looking at the lights below, and he couldn't take his eyes off it. Seriously, this is the first time he has seen such a lively and prosperous lantern festival at his age, so he has seen it since the lights were lit. Eyes don't turn. Not only did he watch it himself, he also pulled Qian Shi to watch it. Of course, he was quite reserved in front of his in-laws and Mr. Zhuang. He only lowered his voice and said to Mrs. Qian, quick, look at that lamp, does it look like a rabbit? Qian turned his head to look, nodded with a smile, like. Old Zhutu whispered, I'll go down and buy you one later. Qian Shi pursed his lips and smiled, but did not refuse. The two were talking so earnestly that Man Bao didn't notice when he entered the box. When Mrs. Lu saw a few people squeezed into the box panting, she smiled and asked the girl to pour tea for them, and asked with a smile, how long have you been playing here? Man Bao said, it didn't take long for them to come over when they met Lixiu on the road. Seeing that they were all sitting still, Man Bao encouraged him, Sir, Grandma Lu, you should also go down for a walk, it's fun on the street. The two refused, we are old, so we won't join you in this fun, you go. Man Bao invited Aunt Zheng and ran to the window to call her parents, Father, Mother, I'm going to guess the riddles for you. Old Zhou hesitated and asked, is there a rabbit lamp? Yes, but the beauty lamp looks better. But the old Zhutu said, the rabbit is very beautiful. Guess a rabbit lamp for your mother. Man Bao smiled and said, wait for me, I'll go upstairs to see a friend and come down. Bai Shan poured a cup of tea and handed it to her, saying, I'll go with you. Then let everyone wait here for them. Madame Lu asked curiously, why, did you meet acquaintances in Yangzhou? Bai Shan said, it's the third master and third wife of the Li family, Man Bao's patient. Old Zhutu and the others didn't know who it was, but Mrs. Lu immediately thought of it. She nodded with a smile, and said to the two of them, go, come back after saying hello to someone. The two agreed, and went upstairs together. When Mrs. Lu waited for them to leave, she entertained Yin or Lu Huan, and the two children suddenly appeared in Yangzhou in the afternoon, which surprised her too. Man Bao and Bai Shan went up to the third floor, and when they went upstairs, they found Xiangui who was waiting, and they followed her to the private room. Han Wuniang has not seen Manbao for a long time, and their family returned to Yongzhou not long after the 100-day work, but it was only lively for several months when they returned to Yongzhou. No way, she is the first person in history to have a belly cut and still alive, not to mention those relatives, friends, and sisters-in-law. Even her mother-in-law couldn't help but look at her belly. Originally, she thought the knife marks left on her stomach were ugly, but now she doesn't feel that way anymore. As soon as she saw Manbao, Han Wuniang happily took her hand and said hello, and then asked Li Sanlang to carry the child over for Manbao to see, and even taught the child who was babbling to be called auntie. With outsiders around, Li Sanlang couldn't hold the baby anymore, so he turned around and handed the baby over to the nurse, while he and Bai Shan were talking to the side. Mainly out of curiosity as to how they got here. Han Wuniang, who was on the side, dragged Manbao to talk about the troubles of parenting. For example, this child has not liked drinking milk very much recently, and stared at the meat on the dining table. He kept clamoring to eat, but I remember you said that before the child is 1 year old, it is best not to eat salt and meat, just eat some egg custard, so I have never dared to give it to him. Manbao nodded and said with a smile, the child's stomach is weak, and the internal organs are developing, so use less salt at this time. When you are young, milk can provide most of the nutrition, and now you can eat complementary food. Han Wuniang had been feeding the baby herself before, but he grew teeth and biting so painfully, so she stopped and started feeding it to the wet nurse. She has a lot of troubles at the moment, and their box is not small. She simply dragged Manbao to the other side of the screen and whispered, and finally said, "It's a pity that Yongzhou doesn't have a female doctor like you. This kind of thing I can only tell the mother-in-law around me, but they will only tell me that women have this experience, just get through it." Manbao also sighed, the imperial physician's office is about to be built. I hope that by then we can recruit a few more female disciples, and once they have completed their studies, they can be sent to local medical offices. Han Wuniang's eyes flickered slightly, and she lowered her voice and said, "Zhou Xiaoniang, can you pick 2 people from my side to enter the imperial physician's office?" Manbao was surprised and looked puzzled. Huh? Han Wuniang smiled and said, "The women in these ordinary households are seldom literate, I'm afraid they won't be able to take the exam. After the exam, they have to start learning from literacy, which is too much time consuming, but the people around us are different, they have grown up since childhood. If you have learned some characters, you are smart, and you can start studying medicine as soon as you enter the medical office. Isn't it better than choosing from outside?" Manbao became thoughtful and asked, "Is this still possible?" "Sure." Manbao asked calmly, "But they are slaves, not good ones." Han Wuniang smiled and said, "What's so difficult about this? Just let them go." See you at 9. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1646. Manbao looked puzzled and asked, "Fuji, are they still yours?" Han Wuniang smiled and said, "Their mothers and fathers are still in the mansion. Although their books are released, they will naturally return to the mansion after they finish their studies." Manbao was stunned for a while before asking, "Are there many people who want to send people to the imperial physician's office?" Han Wuniang sighed and said, "Whoever thinks this medical officer is too few, naturally wants to send it in, but the Imperial Medical Office is now in charge of His Royal Highness the Prince, and the selection rules have not yet been determined, so even if each family wants to send people, it will be temporarily. I won't be able to send it in for a while." Manbao nodded with a smile, and said, "Xiao Yuanzheng and the others are in charge of these matters. I am young, and I only care about repairing books and treating your Majesty's concubines." These things are not my responsibility. Han Wuniang also guessed it. After all, Man Bao is still young, but, you will teach this female disciple in the future, right? As a gentleman, this imperial medical office was built by your superiors. You should talk about the Thai hospital as well. I'll consider it. After thinking for a moment, Man Bao said, I will go back and discuss with Xiao Yuan. Discuss to fill this loophole. Han Wuniang didn't know what Man Bao was thinking, she had to understand her doubts, and told Man Bao what had been on her mind for a long time, so she happily pulled the person outside the screen to speak. And at this moment, Bai Shan also established a basic friendship with Li Saburo. Knowing that they planned to manage Zhou Man's job field by themselves, Li Sanlang said that he would ask someone to help take care of Pu village. After all, the strong dragon does not suppress the local snake, and the Li family is not only a local snake in Yangzhou, but also a strong dragon. After the conversation, Man Bao and Bai Shan said goodbye with a smile. Li Sanlang and Han Wuniang sent the person to the stairs, and then turned back to the room after watching the person go downstairs. Li Sanlang called the guy in the restaurant and said, their account is recorded on my account, and if someone sends some food and drinks over, they will say that I gave it. The guy responded, bowed, and backed out. Han Wuniang smiled and said, I knew earlier that they had set up our restaurant, and it should be on the 3rd floor, so the view from here is better. Li Sanlang said, this year is too late, and it would be too much trouble for them to change. If they come to Yangzhou to celebrate the Lantern Festival next year, they will reserve a wing room on the 3rd floor for them. And Bai Shan, who walked down the stairs side by side, took her hand, led her down, turned his head and asked, what are you thinking? Don't look at your feet. I'm thinking about how to fill in the loopholes in the admissions of the Imperial Physician's office. She looked around, and seeing that there were many people around, she said, I'll tell you when I go out. This time, the two took Lao Zhutu and the others to the street together. Man Bao and Bai Shan went to guess lantern riddles for them, while they strolled around by themselves. Man Bao deliberately lit the rabbit lantern that his father liked. After guessing the riddle, he took the lantern in his hand. Seeing that Bai Shan also guessed 2 lamps, he walked back slowly with him, and took the lantern that Han Wuniang entrusted to her just now. Things said. Prince and Lord Yang are already discussing the allocation of funds to the Imperial Physician's office each academic year. Man Bao said, I have seen the official document that Xiao Yuan Zheng received from the Chongguan Museum, which not only contains the cost of consumables for teaching, medicinal materials, etc., there are also jimmy for students, that is to say, students who enter the Imperial Medical Office to study medicine not only do not spend money, but they can also take home a jimmy from the office every month. Bai Shanlu thought about it and said, this is to encourage poor children to study medicine. Man Bao nodded. If, like Han Wuniang, the servants of the family are sent to study in the Imperial Physician's office, and the students who the Imperial Court and the Imperial Physician spent so much to teach end up in the private houses of their noble families and dignitaries, then the original purpose of the establishment of the Imperial Physician's office wouldn't it be obsolete? Bai Shan pondered, I'm afraid it's not just Han Wuniang who has this idea, she doesn't know what's wrong, let alone others. Man Bao nodded, we have to find a way to plug this loophole. Man Bao thought of this and smiled, speaking of which, I would like to thank her this time. If she hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't even know they had such an idea. Bai Shan, I'm afraid Han Wuniang won't be very happy. But at the moment, the other party doesn't know anything about it. The two of them went back with the lantern. Man Bao gave the rabbit lantern to her father, and saw that her father gave it to her mother. Lantern. Bai Shan smiled and said, since auntie has it, you can take it yourself. Man Bao could only take it by himself. Yin or they also went to guess puzzles. He used to guess puzzles when he was at home, but he didn't like it, that is, to please his grandmother, so he just followed the crowd to guess one or two, and didn't think guessing puzzles had any meaning. But at this time, looking at the lanterns on the light shed, he can get a lantern by guessing a riddle, and he can give it away when he turns around. He thinks it is very interesting. So they took Bai Erlang and Lu Huan to guess the riddle together. Of course, it was mainly his guess that Bai Erlang and Lu Huan brought him a lamp. But Bai Erlang saw that he couldn't guess after several guesses in a row, so he couldn't help pushing him aside and went on it himself. Bai Erlang chose a simple and easy to guess lantern riddle. After guessing 3 lanterns in a row, he looked at Yin Or. This riddle is different from making a fuss. Do you have to imagine it? Yin Or, I don't know. However, he was quite happy. He could always guess one of the 3 riddles, and unlike Bai Erlang, who chose riddles based on lights, he quickly found his own rules. It doesn't matter whether the lights hanging on the shed are good looking or ugly, he just looks at the riddles and guesses, and takes the lights when he guesses right. He handed it to Zhou Lejun and a few others. If they disliked being ugly, he would give it to the passing children, and if they didn't dislike it, he would give it to them. Zhou Lejun and Zhou Liru can also guess lantern riddles themselves, but they will not refuse anyone who comes. They will take whatever they give. After a while, they will turn around and sell them for 4 cents or 5 cents, as long as they can sell them. Old Zhutu didn't expect such an operation, so he followed Zhou Lejun and a few behind Yin Or's ass. He guessed the lamp and took it, turned around and sold it. Qian. Man Bao and Bai Shan were both stunned, then looked at each other, rolled up their sleeves and stepped forward to help. In terms of guessing, who can compare to the 2 of them? It wasn't until the 3rd watch that they were going home. A few people looked back and saw that they had walked several streets and basically walked around the lanterns in Yangzhou City. After the 3rd watch, the people on the street gradually dispersed. The lanterns that Yin He and Bai Erlang won for them are all called Lao Zhutu. They are almost sold. Zhou Tiou said with a smile, I'll buy you sweet water when I go back. Yin Or said a lot this night, and his throat was a little hoarse. Hearing that, he nodded again and again, he really wanted to drink water. So everyone went back to the inn. Mrs. Lu and Mrs. Zheng had already gone back from the restaurant. Mrs. Lu heard the movement and came out to tell Man Bao and Bai Shan, Lao madam, please tell you, after washing up, go to bed and close the doors and windows so that you don't catch a cold at night. He added, also, the restaurant we stayed in today belongs to the Li family, so they paid for the food and drinks we ate there tonight. The old lady asked the young master and Miss Man to keep it in mind, so that you can return the favor next time. Man Bao yawned in response, and decided to give Han Wuniang a bottle of ointment to remove scars next time to remove the knife marks on her stomach. See you tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Zhu. Chapter 1647. Because 15 played late, they both went to bed late the next day. When they got up, it was bustling outside again, and they were not in a hurry to go back to the village. A group of friends divided several groups to go out to stroll around Yangzhou City, and bought some that were not too expensive. Another mess. In the afternoon, the sun was not so bright, and it looked cooler, so everyone backed out of the guest room and left. Yin Or and Lu Huan didn't want to go back to the capital immediately. Anyway, they had already come out, so let's play for 2 more days. The servants of the Yin family didn't urge Yin Or, but the servants of the Lu family couldn't help urging Lu Huan. However, Lu Huan turned a deaf ear. He whispered to his friends, anyway, it is inevitable to be beaten after returning home. That being the case, it is natural to have enough fun. It is also good to be beaten 2 days later. Bai Shan and the others took it seriously, so they took the 2 of them back to Zhuangzi, and turned over to help Lu Huan to persuade the servants of the Lu family, as soon as you come, you will be at peace. It's on Lu Huan's body. The servant of the Lu family. When they arrived at Bai's Zhuangzi, Lu Huan and Yin, he followed them to the orchard while it was still dark, and went to pick some fruit. Bai Shandao, it's not bad to be able to buy this Zhuangzi between the capital and Yangzhou, but my grandmother waited for a long time to get the opportunity. The land between these two cities is usually robbed when they come out. Sad to sell. Lu Huan said, my family has Zhuangzi in the suburbs of Beijing. Bai Shan smiled and said, I know, my family can't compare to yours in this respect. Yin, he said, your ancestral home is Longzhou, and Longzhou is not very far from here. Does your family have no land there? Yes, most of my family's fields are still in Longzhou, Bai Shan said, but Longzhou is still a little far from the capital. This village mainly grows some vegetables, fruits, and melons and beans that I usually eat, which can be delivered to the capital in season. But the food is also planted, which comes second. Yin, he nodded and couldn't help but ask, what is the main planting field in Manbao? Is it also melons, fruits, and vegetables? Bai Shan, 1,000 acres of farmland, how can we mainly grow this, natural food? Bai Shan told them the main plan. Lu Huan was not very interested in this, but Yin listened with interest. Bai Shandao, Lu Gui went to Longzhou to pick up wheat seeds. He should have gone back by now, and it will be sent back in 2 days at most. As the Mid-Autumn Festival is over, everyone can start farming. Farming is easy to say, but it is not easy. Naturally, it is not something they say can be planted. The next day was 17. Old Joe woke up before dawn. After waking up his eldest son, he changed into his work clothes and then took a few daughters-in-law and grandchildren to visit Pu village. Mr. Zhuang actually changed his clothes and wanted to go with him. A few Manbao, who wanted to stay in bed as an excuse to read and practice calligraphy, could only get up from the bed and silently changed their clothes and went over together. Mrs. Lu and the others did not go, and decided to take care of their internal affairs in Zhuangzi. When they arrived in Pu village, Manbao and the others were basically speechless, because each family had already set the number of acres to be rented, and even the land had been allocated. The court's work fields are planned very squarely, 1 mu is 1 mu, so it is much easier to redistribute work fields every time an official needs to be replaced. Measure again? Of course, this is very fast, but the drawbacks are also visible to the naked eye. Job fields are easily robbed, and some job fields are lost when they are planted, because some high-ranking officials will come out after they are assigned to job fields. The money buys the private fields in or around the working fields, and then grows them. The private fields of his family will become more and more, and the working fields will become less and less. After a few years or 10 years, officials are released, or they are appointed to official positions, or for other reasons, the work field is not divided. When the Ministry of Household comes to take it back, they find that the work field has shrunk by more than half or simply disappeared. At this time, the Ministry of Household has 2 ways to go. One is to keep the sand out of the eyes. It will take the next few years and the cost of holding a large number of officials of the Ministry of Households accountable to get back these farms, and then involve more people. Many things. Another one is to turn a blind eye and report that the job field has been destroyed due to various natural and man-made disasters, and a new job field needs to be re-examined. The innocent and romantic Manbao Bai Shan sat on the chairs moved out of the village. While sealing the tenancy agreement, he listened to the villagers talking about why they moved here more than 10 years ago. It was because their land was next to a large piece of work field, and later that large piece of work field became the private field of a master kui, and then their land was bought by the court and used as work field, and the yamen bought it. After their land went to work as farmland, they were unwilling to let them rent it. An old man said quietly, the chief said that the officials did not let us plant because they were afraid that we would make trouble there, so they moved us here. Manbao and Bai Shan and Bai Erlang looked at each other, and finally understood why some books directly pointed out that the war started because of serious land annexation, and the peasants rebelled after they could not survive. This is the second generation of this dynasty. Someone has already occupied a large number of job fields. If we go on, won't we blatantly occupy the land of the good people? Bai Shan frowned. Yin Or and Lu Huan obviously hadn't read those books, and they didn't understand the hearts of the three of them. They were only shocked. Yin, he said, is this against the law? Lu Huan, did your grandfather even care? His grandfather was the minister of households. Lu Huan blushed and asked, the surname is Kui? Could it be the Kui family? Yin Or stopped talking. The Kui family is a famous family, and the most important thing is that his family's in-laws are all over the court and the public. Not to mention, Lu Huan, who is sitting in front of him, has an uncle who is married to the daughter of the Kui family. Lord Wei Jiwei in the court, his eldest daughter-in-law is also from the Kui family, as well as Yang Xuexiang's wife, Han Shangshu, and Chen Qiagong's family have a daughter-in-law from the Kui family. This is still the young and middle-aged generation, more don't talk about the older generation. The intertwined relationship between each family is even more impossible to say. Yin Or's grandmother, a sister-in-law of her family's family, is also from the Kui family. Therefore, even Yin Or himself, who met the Kui family, had to call them cousins or cousins in terms of relationship. It can be said that the Kui family really connected the entire court by in-laws. Yin Or did not memorize the clan history because of his frailty, but he had read it. In addition, he had 6 sisters in the family. It would be difficult for him to know these connections in the capital. Not to mention Bai Shan, he is the one who memorized the entire clan annals and the family tree of the Bai clan. By the way, the Bai family is also in contact with the Kui family. Thinking of this, Bai Shan himself was stunned. After hearing about it, Man Bao was amazed and said, Kui is even more powerful than the Ma family in our town. See you at 4 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1648. Master Ma is from the town of Beimaguan. He has 9 daughters and only 1 son. The year before, Manbao came home from Yazhu City for the Chinese New Year, and overheard it, saying that Mr. Ma wanted to marry Manbao for his son, because Manbao had 6 older brothers, but the olds who too disliked his family's net life. The daughter does not give birth to a son, so she is not very happy. At that time, Manbao quietly listened to her sisters-in-law talking about the matter of Master Ma's house. It is said that because his family has 9 daughters, in-laws are all over Beimaguan town, and 2 daughters are married to Lujiang County. Manbao thought that Master Ma was already powerful enough, but he didn't expect that Kui's family was even more powerful than Master Ma's family. It was only at this moment that Bai Shan could feel the strength of the Kui family, or rather, the aristocratic family. He swallowed and said to Manbao, let's discuss this job field. Other things are not in a hurry, but chickens can be raised. Bai Erlang said, there aren't that many chicks. Manbao, buy the eggs and come back to hatch them. We will pay for the eggs and buy some hens to brood. In the past, their little villagers did this when they wanted to raise chickens, but they bought the eggs, but not the hens. At that time, they were handed over to the hens of Lao Zhou's family to help them hatch. After Manbao finished stamping, he handed over a copy of the tenancy documents to the chief. Then he went to her father to tell her about it, and saw that her father was already busy in the field with others. When old Zhutu saw Manbao, he couldn't help but mutter, how come you rented out all the land and didn't leave us an acre? Manbao stayed for a while. Old Zhou said, if you don't give us land, what are we doing here? Manbao was stunned, and after a while, he said, Father, leave them alone, there are 100 tenant farmers, and they plant 1,200 mu of our family and husband's land, you have to watch. By the way, are we going to compost? Manbao looked at Bai Shan, and Bai Shan immediately said, yes, it is about to be composted, Uncle Zhou, Look at how fertile this land is, but if there is not enough fertilizer, no matter how good the land is, it will be barren. Lao's Hutu was immediately distracted and turned to look for the tenant farmers. He had to ask how much manure they had prepared for composting this year. Old Joe was busy with something, and he couldn't take care of them immediately. She glanced at his back, beckoned to Manbeo, looked at her for a while, reached out and tapped her forehead, and said, "Forget about other things, where will your father and the others stay when they come to see the land?" Manbao immediately said, "I'm looking for a place to build a house for Dad." Qian said, "Just build a thatched cottage. After all, this land is only for us to farm, not under our name. It is uncertain how many years it can be cultivated." Manbao remembered the pond she was going to dig, and couldn't help but look at Bai Shan. The two exchanged eye contact for a while, then smiled. Qian looked at the two of them and said, "It's not foolish to have money. Although the family is not too short of money right now, you can't spend it indiscriminately." Manbao assured, "Mom, don't worry, when have I ever spent money indiscriminately?" She reluctantly believed her. Manbao turned around but discussed the matter of buying land with the chief. As soon as the governor heard that Manbao wanted to buy land, he became dizzy, and his affection for her suddenly fell to the lowest point. Manbao pointed to the wasteland in the distance and said, "There is a lot of sand and gravel. I don't know if I can buy it or rent it." The lieutenant was still thinking about how to reject her. Hearing that she was going to buy that piece of wasteland, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, and then asked cautiously, "Master Joe, what can I do with that piece of land?" "Let's build a house," Manbao said. "I can't help it, I see that the houses in your village are very compact. In the future, if my family wants to come over to take care of Zhuangzi, there will always be a place to stay. It will take 3/4 of an hour." The lieutenant heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "It's a piece of wasteland, but it's possible to build a house, and it's not expensive. It's enough for Lord Joe to give some advice." Manbao rolled his eyes and asked, "Then if I buy a bigger one, will I dig a big pond there?" The chief said, "The land is not expensive, but the cost of digging a pond is a lot, and it's dry at the moment." "It's just because of the drought that we have to dig a pond to store water," Manbao said. "The fields around here are my working fields. I don't know what the situation will be next year. If I can store water, it will alleviate some of the drought, right?" She said, "1 acre of land that can be saved is 1 acre of land." The chief felt that her money was stupid, so he smiled and said, "Lord Joe, it's fine if you feel good." Then, without any psychological burden, he sold that piece of wasteland, which was of no use, and felt awkward to walk, to Manbao. Because he wanted to make a good relationship, he only took the minimum amount of money, and then opened the land deed, and then the Yamen will be able to file the record. As for the money, it is usually kept with him, and in the future when the village needs something, it will be taken out of the public. The old Zhou family knew nothing about these things. Old Hutu and Zhou Dalan followed the villagers to walk around the 1,000 mu of land earnestly, and decided with them the number of mu of winter wheat to be planted this year, and they returned to the village only after reluctantly knowing what to do. Bai Shan has already started to plan how deep the pond will be dug, while Bai Erlang is scribbling on the paper how many rooms to build for Manbao. Even if it's gravel, it can't just build a few rooms bare. You try to be an official for as many years as possible. Such a large piece of land, there will be mulberry fields, fruit trees, wheat fields, rice fields, and various fruits and vegetables. We can come and live when we are resting." He drew on the paper and said, "So I want a room, Bai Shan also has a room, and you and sir, this garden must be planted with more flowers and plants to look good. I think it's roses, that one. It can grow a lot and feed well." Manbao said, "Don't forget my family." "I know, I still have to reserve a room for Brother Thursday and the others. He is now taking his business to Xiaohu." From Xiaozhou to the capital, it is necessary to pass through Yangzhou. If it is late, you can rest here and leave early the next morning. Returning to the capital is just in time to advance to the city at noon. Take it easy, how nice. Well, then cover it a little more to the side. Bai Shan took the time to glance at him, and couldn't help but pat him. You built it like this, and I don't even have a pond to dig. Yin he was helping them sort out the manuscript, and smiled when he saw it. How can a house be built sideways like this? He took a pen to help Bai Erlang plan. Lu Huan was very bored and asked, "It's fine to leave this kind of thing to the steward, why do you need to do it yourself?" Man Bao said, "My family is not in charge." Lu Huan pointed at Bai Shan and said, "If you don't have one, can he still have one? And if you don't have one, you can hire one, or buy one. Do you want me to give you one?" Bai Erlang looked up at him, shook his head and said, "Aren't you stupid? Even Bai Shan didn't give her away, yet you gave her away." Man Bao said, "No, my elder brother can do anything in my family, and they don't need to be in charge at the moment." She hired a steward on the front foot, and her father could take her mother and elder brother and sister-in-law home with her back. Don't look at her parents seem to be living happily in the capital, but they miss their hometown very much. If they have nothing to do for them, they will go home even if they miss her again. There are so many places at home. Man Bao saw her father's figure walking past the door with sharp eyes, and immediately said, "I still have to go to the palace to work in so many places, but if I can't handle it, I'll just point at my father and them. Relatives are gone, I can work hard and work hard, I will add more tonight. See you at 9. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1649. Old Zhutu turned to leave, found Qian and said, "Forget it, let's stay in the capital. Although Manbao has rented out all the land, I don't think those people in Pu village seem to be very hard-working people. I've seen it all, it's about to be planted in autumn, and as a result, there is no manure prepared at all. Without the help of someone who can farm, 40% of the renters in the coming year will not even be able to get back half of the seed money they paid." At this moment, Lao Zhutu didn't know that Manbao and the others had even taken on all the wheat seeds. Qian Shi nodded, "It's natural for you to listen to such important matters." Old Zhou Yu got complacent, then thought about it and said, "Since they are all rented to them, then I can't call my daughters-in-law to do white labor, just me and the boss will come over and watch them so that they won't be lazy. Go back to our grandfather. The two of you can build a thatched hut." After thinking about it for a while, Qian said, "Go back to the happy bar first, and then come back after you have eaten the wedding wine." Old Zhou nodded. Bai Shan is also planning this matter with Man Bao. "We have to go back to the hall for brother's wedding first. I guess Zhou Bo and the others will not be here until 20 years later. When you come with brother Zhou and the others, let's live in Zhuangzi first, although it's a little far away, you're not afraid of a car?" Man Bao said, who is staring at the construction of the house. Bai Shan picked up the picture drawn by Yin Or and said with a smile, "Let's build it like this. Since I want to come and live in my spare time, I have to build some more. I'll go to my grandmother in a while and ask her to give me 2 hands. I'll stay. They take care of it, but what about the money?" Bai Shan looked at Bai Erlang, then looked at Man Bao, and said, "Brothers will settle accounts. Since you said that this Zhuangzi will give us 10% to share equally, then Bai and I will also contribute more. Although this house will be yours in the future, we will definitely live there, so Bai and I will pay 50% together, and the remaining 50% will be yours." Man Bao looked at Bai Erlang, "I'm fine, how about you?" Bai Erlang subconsciously covered his purse and asked, "Hello first, how much does this house cost?" Looking at how scared you are, even if you count the furniture, flowers, and trees inside, it won't exceed 100 taels at most. Let's split half of it, 25 taels per person, and the remaining 50 taels are full of treasures. After doing the math, Bai Erlang found that he could still bear it, so he nodded, okay, but I haven't had any income recently. I'll wait until the money from Zhuangzi comes. Man Bao couldn't help but ask, where did all your money go? Bai Shan said, don't ask, it must be lent to someone else. He said, he entered the Chongguan Museum, but he didn't learn anything else, but he learned to lend money to others. Bai Erlang said, it wasn't me who took the initiative, it was they who asked me to borrow money, and they also gave me interest. Anyway, the money has no other use. It's better to lend it to others, and don't care about the interest. How much money is there, is it money anyway? Man Bao was amazed, who did you lend the money to? Everyone has borrowed from me, Feng Zongping, Zhao Lu, Niu, and Lu Huan have also borrowed from me. Everyone turned to look at Lu Huan. Lu Huan immediately said, I borrow money for serious purposes. Bai Shan was very curious, what is the serious use? Lu Huan held back for a while and said, I bought a birthday gift for my grandmother. Bai Erlang said, he and I borrowed it 3 times. Everyone. Man Bao was curious, is the interest high? Bai Erlang said, I don't set the date, they look at it, and some people don't give me interest, but just invite me to dinner, that's okay. Man Bao turned to Lu Huan and said, I also have spare money. Lu Huan was silent for a while and then said angrily, I don't borrow money. Man Bao was a little disappointed. Bai Shan looked overjoyed. Anyway, the matter was settled like this, only Yin Or was very interested in them sharing the money and profits, but he didn't ask anything, just watched silently. Bai Erlang temporarily owed money, and Man Bao gave Tian Shang his share of the money for the time being. She quietly took 75 taels of silver to Bai Shan, and whispered, you have to hide it from my father, don't let him know. Bai Shan said, don't worry, after the foundation is laid, Uncle Joe won't be afraid even if he knows. At that time, Lao Zhutu was worried about money. Looking at the land he had already bought and the foundation laid, if he didn't build the house, it would be a real waste of time. Even if he was distressed, he would let them build it. The two of them understood and laughed, and after handing over this matter, they happily played in the village. There is no way, they will go back to Beijing tomorrow, and the next time they want to come out and play, it may not be when. Even Yin Or and Lu Huan were a little reluctant to part, but as soon as they saw the gate of the capital, their skin tightened slightly. Even if Yin Or knew that his family would not scold and beat him, he couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. After entering the city gate, everyone went to the inner city, and finally separated at the fork in Chongyuan Square. Lu Huan changed from the Yin family's carriage to their family's carriage, still holding onto their family's carriage, reluctantly, and said to Bai Shan, remember to send someone to see me at my house later, just ask me for an appointment. Let's go to school together tomorrow. Bai Erlang said, we won't go to school tomorrow, we have asked for leave, and my eldest brother is going to get married the day after tomorrow. Bai Shan said, don't worry, I will send someone to call. Lu Huan breathed a sigh of relief, then looked at them enviously, I also want to go to a wedding wine. Man Bao said with a smile, it's all right, when we enter the palace on the 21st, we will bring you a wedding cake. Lu Huan thought to himself, does he want to eat those wedding cakes? What he is thinking about is whether the 2-day vacation will be good. Yin Or already said, then let's go first. Lu Huan was also reluctant, and left with a heroic appearance. But when he got home, the stick that he had in anticipation did not fall, but was scolded severely and rushed to the ancestral hall to kneel. Lu Huan felt very strange, and quietly asked the housekeeper who escorted him to the ancestral hall, why didn't my grandfather beat me? Butler, it's been 4 days, and the old man's anger has subsided a lot. Young master, don't make the old man angry again, or you will really be beaten. Lu Huan immediately assured him that he would never make his grandfather angry. The Yin family will be much calmer. As soon as Yin he came back, Mrs. Yin breathed a sigh of relief and did not scold him. She just asked him warmly for a while, and after confirming that he went out without any damage, she let him go back to the house to rest. Yin stepped back after saluting, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Then he turned his head and smiled at Chang Shao, and said, "Send the things we brought back from Zhuangzi to the kitchen, and let them choose what they can cook and eat at night." That's right, when they left the village, they not only picked a lot of fresh fruits and brought them with them, but also went to the vegetable garden to cut a lot of fresh vegetables and brought them with them, all for each family to have a taste of. So the Yin family ate all kinds of melons, fruits, and vegetables produced by Zhuangzi of the Bai family for dinner, as did the Lu family. At the same time, the servants of the Bai family also came in to spread a message for the master. "My young master told Lu, young master, don't forget to come in early tomorrow morning. The palace wants to endorse it. See you at 10 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl." Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 1650. Mrs. Lu did not wait for Lu Shangshu to speak, and immediately had someone call Lu Huan back from the ancestral hall. "Let him go to the study to study, don't miss the exam tomorrow." Lu Shangshu. "With luck," he said, "tell him, I'll check after dinner, and if he can't come back, I'll break his leg." Bai family servant, "What should I do if I feel self-defeating?" He went back nervously and told the young master about it. Bai Shan said indifferently, "It's okay, Mrs. Lu is here. He shouldn't go in again after he comes out." However, Bai Shan is also very meaningful. "It was only punished for kneeling, didn't you get beaten?" "No, I did a little inquiries. I heard that young Master Lu was scolded and rushed to the ancestral hall to kneel, and it took less than 3/4 of an hour." Bai Shan was afraid that he would be beaten badly, so he went home and rested for a while, and immediately let the servants pass by. Who knew that they were not beaten at all, they were just kneeling in the ancestral hall. Bai Shan shook his head, put the matter behind him, and ran to see what the people had arranged. Bai Dalan's wedding room was placed in Changqing Lane. Master Bai sent someone to walk around the city, and asked a lot of people, and finally found that the house that Bai Shan and the others rented before was the best. It happened that the landlord also wanted to sell the house, so Mr. Bai relentlessly asked a lot of money to buy the house. The yard with 2 entrances also brought a small garden, not to mention the young couple Baiji, even their whole family can live here. Moreover, Changqing Lane is not very far from Kuazijian and Zhou's house. It is very convenient for Bai Dalan to go to school and communicate with his younger brothers. Master Bai bought the house very quickly, and it was much easier to arrange it. With the help of Mrs. Lu, the place was quickly arranged. Several families discussed it, and finally decided to follow the advice of each family to get married from the Zhou house, so the Zhou family also had to arrange it. At least the gate must be hung red, and the corridor from the inner courtyard to the gate must also be hung red. When Man Bao and the others came back, the 2 houses had already arranged almost the same, and even the Chinese characters were pasted on the window lattices, and the family was beaming with joy. Because they were getting married on the 3rd day, Bai Dalan was going to move to Changqing Lane to live there. After Bai Erlang and Bai Shan wandered around the house, they were driven by Master Bai to live there together. "You have to come over early the day after tomorrow to welcome your relatives, you know." Bai Shan asked, "Where is the cousin staying tonight?" Master Bai said, "Like you, I also live in Changqing Lane." Not only Mr. Bai, but also Mr. Zhuang and Zhou Lixiu were dragged by Mr. Bai to Changqing Lane. This way, there will be more talents to welcome relatives the day after tomorrow, and it will be lively. Bai Shandao, tomorrow is the same again. It's the same, I went to the conservatory 2 days early to know if you know it, and you can help me see what's missing. It's your brother's first marriage, so don't make any mistakes. It was also the first time for Master Bai to hold a wedding for his son, so he was a little nervous, so at his strong request, the few people who had just returned home and had not had time to sit down went to Changqing Lane again. When they arrived at the familiar Changqing Lane, Bai Shan was stunned. Man Bao, who came over to join in the fun, was also stunned. She glanced at the door, couldn't help but reached out and touched it, and asked, "This is where we lived before?" Master Bai looked around, lowered his voice and said, "I heard that an assassin came to the door last year, several people died at the door, and the blood splattered on the door. I looked carefully before, and I also felt that there was blood on the door. Ching, so I asked someone to change the door again." Not only did Master Bai ask someone to change a door, he even pried up the threshold and the bluestone slab in front of the door. Now everything from the bluestone slab to the threshold to the gate is brand new. Man Bao shouted in amazement. He pushed the door open and went in. He saw a lot of large flower pots in the front yard. The trees were green and the flowers were blooming. Gorgeous, with red cloth hanging on it, a beam of joy. Going in again, the inside is also clean and fresh. They never knew that the place where they had lived for almost a year could turn out to be like this. When I arrived at the main courtyard, the changes were even bigger. Master Bai regretted, if it weren't for the time constraints, I would have asked someone to paint the house again. If nothing else, the wood would have to be painted again. Bai Dalan was sweating when he heard it, and quickly said, "Dad, this house is not broken, it looks good, and there is no need to repaint it." "This is your first marriage, how can you be sloppy?" Master Bai sighed when he said this. "Actually, if it wasn't for the wrong time, the marriage should have been at home. Your grandmother and mother are both here, so it's convenient at home. Then we can hang the red color at the entrance of the village." Master Bai has obviously thought about it many times in his heart, and it is very regretful to say it now. At the end, he looked at Bai Erlang and said, "Erlang, this is how your marriage will be done in the future." Shirojiro. Bai Dalan glanced at his brother sympathetically, and immediately went to the new house first. Bai Shan and Man Bao looked at Bai Erlang with admiration, and then said, "Actually, we can do this when we get married." Shirojiro. He turned to look at the two of them, and saw that they turned out to be serious, especially their faces were a little red, and he couldn't stand it anymore. "Do you think my father's idea is good?" Bai Shan said, "Isn't it bad? The red color has been hung at the entrance of the village, how grand." Man Bao said, "How lively it is." Bai Erlang turned his head and ignored them. Everyone ran to see Bai Dalan's new house. The new house was also arranged. Bai Dalan said to Bai Erlang, "I'll tell you these 2 nights." Bai Shan was curious, "Brother in the lobby, who rolled you out of bed?" On the side, Master Bai sighed, "Man Bao's nephew is 8, but unfortunately she doesn't have a niece of the right age, so we found a family in the alley, but I asked, they have only 1 son, and currently only 1 granddaughter. The luck is far less than that of the old Zhou family. I wanted to ask the matchmaker to help rent a better one, but the 20th day is a rare good day. I heard that there are 8 people in the whole capital who know that they will get married on that day. So the lucky men and women were all robbed. This is the only thing that makes Master Bai dissatisfied. After all, we are from outside, and we can't rob others." Master Bai thought about it for a while, and came up with a crooked idea. How about letting Kitu go to bed with Batu and roll around together? 3 lucky boys, maybe the luck will flourish. After thinking about it, Bai Shan thought that this idea was a good idea, and repeatedly agreed. Mr. Zhuang, who had walked around with his hands behind his back, twitched the corners of his mouth when he heard the words. He finally knew who Erlang looked like, and it was indeed Master Bai's biological son. "Ask for a monthly pass, it's the last day, and the monthly pass will expire if you don't vote again. QQ readers, please look at me. Book friends of the starting point, please go to the book review area. Remember to leave a message before voting for the monthly ticket to participate in the activity. You can get the starting point currency. See you tomorrow.